This podcast is brought to you by PLI, the Practicing Law Institute, providing resources to legal professionals and the law librarian community. For more information, go to pli.edu/librarian.
Hi, I'm Karen Osterly. Welcome to the Practicing Law Librarian podcast, presented by PLI's Legal Information Services Group. This podcast brings you conversations with and for the law librarian community. As a practicing law librarian myself, I've been working in legal information services for 34 years, currently with PLI's Library Relations Group. In this episode, I had the chance to talk with Valerie Salazar, a law librarian serving incarcerated people at the Minnesota State Law Library, and to discuss her path to librarianship. We spoke of the niche and evolving nature of her role, the digitization of legal resources, and the process of handling legal requests from prisoners. We also looked at the use of AI in legal research, and we are emphasizing the importance of access to legal information for incarcerated individuals. For new law librarians, we talked about the importance and value of engaging with professional associations for both support and growth. Hope you can join us. My name's Karen Osterly, and I'm Director of Legal Research at Practicing Law Institute. And I have with me today Valerie Salazar, and she is a Law Library Service to Prisoners librarian at the Minnesota State Law Library, LLSP. We all have these acronyms, PLI, AALL, MLIS, so yours LLSP. And she researches and replies to legal information requests made by incarcerated people. The requests arrive via email, could be a scan from a librarian, phone call, or a virtual visit. In addition to working with this population, she also helps Spanish-speaking patrons that visit or call the Minnesota State Law Library. So welcome, Valerie. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
My pleasure. So we have never met. We may have been at the same conferences in the past. We'll figure that out in a minute. But tell me how you got to be a law librarian to prisoners. That's really, really cool and very unusual.
Yes, I was going to say it's a very niche position. I feel like there's a lot of steps that I did in order to get here, and it just one thing led to another. I kind of started my road to librarianship back when I was in high school. During high school, I was volunteering for the Elding Branch Library, which is a public library in Houston, Texas. I volunteered there for the 4 years that I was in high school. I later went to do my undergrad here in Minnesota. While I was doing my undergrad degree, I was working at the academic library there called Gold Library. At first, I was an intern library loan assistant.
Okay.
And on the side, every now and then, I was also being a circulation desk assistant. In the last 2 years, I became the first ever library-wide intern there. And this is where I learned the different roles that librarians play at academic libraries, whether you're a research librarian or an archivist or special collections librarian there. That's how I kind of went into wanting to be a librarian, just because I was surrounded by librarians and they would tell me all the different roads that I can take from there. Later on, the pandemic kind of hit while I was still in college and everyone went online. So we started doing courses online, and that's where I decided that I was going to do my master's degree, just fully online right after college. I didn't have any breaks or anything. While I was doing my master's, I learned about the position that I'm currently working at, and I decided to apply, and I got the role.
Wow. So you applied to one job, you got it, and you're there.
Yes.
Excellent. So you're there 4 years. And did you think, like when you were a little kid, did you ever think about being a librarian?
No, I did not. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was going to be a grown up. It was more, I was in college, I was reflecting, I have an American Studies degree, and I'm also studying for Latin American Studies. what can I do with this degree? And I just looked at my history and I realized that I had been working a lot with libraries and that I enjoyed my time working at those libraries and the people around me. So I decided to become a librarian from there.
Yeah, well, that is excellent. That is excellent to find out so early that this is something that you like, and to be able to get it so early is just great.
Yeah.
So you work for the state at this particular library. Okay.
Yes.
Because this is my second career. I got my library degree 25 years after I got my MBA. So,
Oh, okay.
worked for a long time and then realized that's what I want to do. And luckily,
Yeah.
they don't discriminate. So I was able to get the degree and then came to work as librarian since 2015. I got the degree in 2011, but kept working. I was at LexisNexis for a long time. So how have you, I was going to say, have you seen law libraries change, but it's only been 4 years. But before that, you worked 4 years in college and 4 years in high school. So over 12 years, how have you seen libraries change since you got here?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of libraries and law libraries change. I feel like it used to be more print-based practices, and now it's a lot of digitization of items and resources and how librarians share that information. A lot of it is online now and freely available. Back in the day, I feel like there wasn't a lot of digitized items, and patrons and people would have to go to the libraries physically. Sometimes they were intimidated by the facilities themselves. Maybe that would stop them from going in. But now that everything's been digitized, I feel like the public has more reason to look for those items and resources. But I feel like even in my 4 years in this position, the change has been so drastic. When I started here, everything was on paper. We would receive the request via email, we would print them out, work on them on paper, and then send those items out, and then collect statistics on paper. And then me and my coworker, we decided to, instead of doing that, printing paper, we were gonna upload the request on lists. It's like the Microsoft lists.
Right.
And at the end of the year, I gather all the data that Liz has collected, put it in an Excel sheet, and that's how I collect my statistics that I use for the annual report. Nowadays, we've been doing everything digitally. The majority of the items, the majority of our resources are digitized. The only exception would be older documents that we would have to go into the library and pull up those resources and make copies. A good chunk of the libraries we're printing items for, there's one library specific that we're emailing the items, and they're printing the items and handing them over to the incarcerated people. This was more of a kind of like a test to see how that would work, if the prison liked that more than us sending each item individually. There had been a change in the mail policies just because now every mail piece that the prisoners received is being sent to Maryland and drug tested, and then it's scanned over to each prison. But because we're considered a special library, our items get sent directly there, but they have to open each individual packet and drug test everything.
Right.
Some of the prisons have opted to just send all the items all in bulk together and not have it be individually wrapped. So we're doing that for them. And then others have just stayed consistent, where each item for each prisoner is wrapped individually.
Do you ever send them by email, or they really need to get them physically where they are to receive their answers?
Yeah, for Lionel Lakes, we send them by email, but it doesn't go to the prisoner, it goes to the mailing staff.
Okay.
And they print out the items and hand them to the individuals.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because then it's all local. They don't have to get it tested in Maryland or anything like that. They're printing it right there. Okay.
Yes. And they save a lot of money.
With the shipping 2 ways. So are you on site at one of the prisons? Are you in more of a central building that serves lots of people remotely?
Yeah, I am at the Minnesota State Law Library. I'm working at their library right now. So we work with all the prisons in Minnesota. each of the prisons has their own librarian at their facility, and that librarian gathers all the requests. They call them kites.
Mhm.
And then they go through each request and see if there's a legal information request, and they scan it over to us.
Okay. So you don't go. Are you in Minneapolis, St. Paul? Are you elsewhere?
Yeah, we're in St. Paul.
You're in St. Paul. Okay. So you don't go. You don't go to the prisons, because
No, we don't go to.
Okay. So you guys are based there. And do you know the other prison, the other LLSP, the other librarians that have other prisons than yours?
Yes. We work in the same office area.
Okay.
So it's 2.5 of us. I specifically work with Faribault and Oak Park Heights prisons, and then the other librarians work with other facilities. There has been some change where we switch out some prisons just because the volume of the prisons changes. Stillwater is working on being closed down, so the volume of each prison has changed a little since the Stillwater prisoners have been switched from Stillwater to Moose Lake or Oak Park Heights. So when that's happening, we're having to adapt at the same time to see how the workflow happens and what we're able to
how that's coordinated.
send out.
Well, one of my library associations, GIPLA, it's Greater Philadelphia Law Library Association. We do every couple of months books through bars. We go down and pack books to send to prisoners. Are you familiar with this at all? Probably a lot of these. Anyway, we send the books. The prisoners write and say, I'd love to have this kind of book, or I'd love to have this kind of, topic. And so we pull from what we have and send those off. And I'm sure that they're all checked in because we have, very specific paperwork to fill out. And are there, at the prison you handle, is there a library on site?
Yes, we do have a library on site. So we have the main collection, which is the Minnesota State Law Libraries collection. And then we have the LLSP collection, which is just back here. Most of the items that we have back here are meant for appeals that they're working on, court cases, appeals, civil cases, how to start their appeals and civil cases, what they can do while they're in prison when their civil rights are being violated.
Right.
And then the collection for the main state law library, it's a little bit more vast. They don't just focus on appeals and civil rights. They focus on bankruptcy and other items. But we do use both. We also use Westlaw and LexisNexis and Hein a lot. If there isn't something that we find useful that we can send from those databases, then we start searching the physical books. But just because of physical books, it takes a bit more time to find items. We kind of rely heavily on our digital collections.
Sure. That makes sense. So we're, of course, a small legal publisher out of New York. Do you ever use PLI, or did you use us in school?
I have not, but I do know that our library does carry some books. I know they carry medical malpractice, Thinking Like a Writer. I haven't really dabbled into those books just because the area of my research is so niche that I focus more on criminal appeals and the 1983 civil suits that kind of cover civil rights violations of prisoners.
Right. We used to get, before PLI, I worked at another small nonprofit library called New York Law Institute, and we would get letters from prisoners a lot. They were looking for briefs, briefs that they wanted to get a copy of and, maybe cite and learn more about. And sometimes we had them and sometimes we didn't. Do you get those kind of requests? Is that one thing they request is briefs from earlier appellate cases?
Yes, we do get a lot of brief requests. A good chunk of our items are from Minnesota. So as long as they're published cases, we can give them the briefs. If they're unpublished, either we don't have access to them, they might not exist, so we don't usually send the unpublished briefs.
Right.
But if it's for other states, we do our best with what we have. Usually Westlaw has a really good brief selection, so we go through there. But yeah, a lot of people do request briefs. And I feel like I have heard of that library also working with incarcerated people, and I've met with some of the librarians there as well.
Cool. Yeah. Excellent. So how are you guys handling AI, artificial intelligence, at the Minnesota State Law Library?
Yes, I'll just speak for LLSP. I'm not
Sure,
quite
that's
sure
great.
what the remainder of the librarians are doing, but here at LLSP, have tried to use AI. We haven't found it super useful since our area of research is so niche, and items that AI kind of gives you as results are either just completely wrong or they're just not useful for what we're looking for.
Right.
But we have found that it's great at summarizing documents.
It is great at that.
And usually we just kind of see the quick summaries that it has while using Westlaw because it kind of pops up
Right.
right underneath that search.
Right. Yeah, we see the same thing. So will you sometimes send that instead of the whole long article?
Oh, okay.
Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I sometimes send the whole article. I also kind of go skim through the article, making sure that it is the items that they're requesting.
Right.
But that AI summary does help incarcerated people a lot, especially if they're just trying to get a quick glance.
Okay. What do you see as the future of AI in your particular LLSP work?
Yeah, ooh, that's a bit hard. I feel like from my experience, it's good at summarizing. So I feel like summarizing will be improved and we would kind of read those blurbs a lot more. Overall, I feel like AI would be more useful for gathering data in the sense of like statistics, maybe, and kind of like analyzing, or if we're trying to go through our collection to separate what books we've used, what books we haven't used. Yeah.
Could be useful for that. Because now I'm realizing you had told me that you collect and analyze the statistics on all the work that you've done, and then they're used for the annual report. Have you used AI with those statistics like you just mentioned?
Yeah, I have not actually. I kind of have my Excel workflow right now where I kind of separate the data that I've been receiving from Excel. I have my own little formulas going on that even separate what each facility's requests have been and the percentage of like it being criminal under the criminal category or the civil category, the post sentencing category.
Right.
But I have not used AI. It would be interesting to use AI for that.
Yeah, you probably have to get permission for that.
Yeah, probably.
I was intrigued that you needed to get clearance to talk to me, and that happens a lot. But I just wasn't thinking, for a state librarian. But they do that with everybody, not just the LLSPs.
Yeah, I personally just wanted to double check.
Sure.
Just because I never know if it's legal or not legal, especially in my position, because we're technically under the courts. So we want to be really careful on our practices and how we present ourselves to the public.
Right. Right. Are you guys, I never thought of this, are you guys officers of the court? The attorneys are all officers of the court once they're sworn in.
Okay. I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
At least I only have a master's, but we are considered a judicial librarian.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not completely clear on if we're officers or not.
I'm not either. But you're in the court system, under the court system.
Yes.
So interesting. Interesting. So can you talk about the content that they mostly ask for? I mean, when I was at NILA, we always got asked for briefs. They must have decided that's what we were good for. Do you get asked for case law? Do you get asked for tactics or strategy for their appeals? Are they all appellate matters?
Yeah. A good chunk of items that are being requested are case laws, and more specifically, they know exactly what case laws they're searching for.
Okay.
So they ask for them by citation. Another good chunk of items that they're requesting is Minnesota statutes,
Okay.
more specifically when they're annotated. So they would give us the statute for first degree assault annotated. So we print that off from Laxus, and they kind of learn the different ways that the courts have decided on that statute itself. Apart from citations, which is what we call when they give us the case law citations and statute citations.
Right. Yeah, they give you the exact site.
Yeah, I think the next category that is most asked for would be criminal. This will be dealing with information on evidence, information on ineffective assistance of counsel. There are a lot of requests for information on ineffective assistance of counsel, also information on their trial rights and Miranda rights when they're being stopped, what can be used to testify during an argument. The next one would fall under civil and family matters. So a lot of people are getting divorced or trying to get married, or they have family and they want to change their child support, or they're trying to gain custody of their children or change the custody of their children. So they ask for information on that in court forms and that. And then for civil, what falls under civil, we usually get cases for the 1983 civil suit, which is a federal civil suit.
Yep.
We also get questions on civil suits for Minnesota. So we have compiled together a packet that we mail out to prisoners when they don't really know what type of civil suit they should file. It goes through the different civil suits that they can file for here for Minnesota. So it handles tort, conciliation or small claims court, the Minnesota civil suits, and then the 1983. And then it describes in depth kind of like what each suit goes through, what it follows, what they can claim. And then from there, they decide which forms they want us to send, and then they just write to us.
It's funny. Your requester group probably knows more about the law than a lot of Americans outside do. They know how to cite a case.
Yeah.
They know about the statutes. They know about forms, getting forms for their particular area of interest. Because many of us go for years just not needing a lawyer, not looking at the statutes. Maybe we get a traffic ticket or something like that, but very little else. But your requesters know a lot about it.
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of the incarcerated people that are requesting from us are repeat requesters. So they often, every other week, are giving us requests and asking for new information that they haven't asked for in the past. Sometimes it is kind of like they're rephrasing the same question in different manners. So we have to find a bit more information so their questions are answered. But yeah, I find that a lot of the requests that are coming in, they're pretty knowledgeable in what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they kind of like have honed in on their question.
Right. That's interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, I do think.
Yeah. No, a friend of mine, Loretta Orndorff, this is years ago, she's retired now, but she was a law librarian in Delaware and then Pennsylvania. And she worked on the case, and now I don't remember the details, but she worked on proving and arguing that prisoners deserved access to legal resources. And so now, of course, they have it. It's mandated. And a lot of prisons will have at least a copy of the statutes. Do you think that your guys have that at their physical location? Do you think they have a copy of the Minnesota statutes?
Yes, they do. So we have a list of what we call the items that each prison has to have. It's under the court collection.
Okay.
So they have to have the current Minnesota statutes, which the majority of these items we send directly to them because we receive them as the Minnesota State Law Library.
Right.
So we send them the Minnesota statutes, we send them the court rules, we send them any other administrative rules that come in and are updated. Mm-hmm. I know that they have a jailhouse lawyer's manual in there. They also have a few other small packets and documents that go over the different, like a civil suit, a family matter,
right.
What else they have in their court collection. Oh, yes, we do have a document or a binder. It's kind of like a guide to all legal research, and we've come up with that binder. And this was before my time. This binder has been here since before I was here. And we've compiled how to read statutes, how to analyze where they're coming from, if they're coming from Minnesota, or if they're coming from a federal court. We also break down each category. So we go through civil, post-conviction, habeas corpus, appeals. So if they want a like very basic research understanding, they can go through that binder, which is at each other facility's library.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. So some things they can get on their own, and they call you or write you or email you, whatever, for the specific ones. So this is a question I hadn't prepared you for. Do you have a belief, something you always thought about the law that you maybe don't agree with now? Or it could be a piece of information, like, all lawyers are smart, or, something like that you grew up believing that maybe you question now or don't agree with now, since you've worked in the field now for some time. Is there anything that's changed there?
I feel like since I was young, I've always been very radical in my thoughts. So a lot of the things I have believed in have kind of stayed consistently. So growing up, I grew up in a not so wealthy area. So I saw a lot of injustices happening around that area. It was very Hispanic based area. And then from there, I kind of saw the discrepancies of wealth. When I went to college, I think that's when my eyes were open at how deep the injustice was when it came to the wealth gap. During my high school years, I was being taught by teachers who had just graduated with their bachelor's degree, didn't have much experience. And then coming to Minnesota and going to their graduations, I noticed that a lot, if not all, their teachers had a master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was just so shocking. And so a big thing with my idea is that everyone deserves the same chance in life, and that also includes information access. I know that incarcerated people don't have information access as they could have if they weren't prisoners. So one of my big values and ideals, even before starting here, is how can I help incarcerated people receive the information they are seeking, and that could help with their case potentially.
So you were interested in that even before you knew about this job, even before you knew Minnesota Library did this. That is really something. That's really, really something. I have to tell you, the rest of the country is very proud of the people of Minneapolis, given what's been going on. And, in lots of cities, the resistance was not organized. But in Minneapolis, you guys have it down.
Yes, and I do love Minneapolis because of that. I feel like since I got here, I've felt that sense of community and activist work as well. In any other place, there is a sense of community, but not in the way, or not as organized as Minnesota has it. And I think that almost began during the George Floyd time. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, it just kind of like elevated that sense of community,
right,
and how we all had to stick together to get through
and take care of each other.
Yes.
Yep. So we had no King's marches, as you know, this Saturday? Was that just Saturday? Yeah. So went out to that again, and it's exciting.
Yes, I'm loving what I'm seeing.
I've been to Minneapolis, St. Paul years ago when I was with LexisNexis. We went out to have meetings and flew into, I don't know where the airport is, but wherever the big airport is, and then stayed somewhere close downtown. And it was just this really cool downtown. And I had, the night my Lexis colleagues went home, and I was, waiting for the meetings the next day. And I found a local comedy club and went to that. This is years ago. This is like, how long ago? Probably 20 years ago. Anyway, it was just wonderful, like this wonderful downtown community spirit and lots of interesting things to do, and, cool little restaurants. And And it turned out to be improv. And so, they asked, have you been to improv? They asked for ideas from the audience and put them into the skit. So that was pretty fun.
Aw.
So I'm a big fan of Minneapolis.
Yes. I feel like they're also very welcoming.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
There's something for everyone.
Now, is there any difference? Like, say, for example, Kansas City, there's a Kansas City, Missouri, and a Kansas City, Kansas, and they're all part of the same city. It's just a state line runs down the middle, but they're all together. Minneapolis and St. Paul, is there any distance between them?
I feel like not really.
Okay.
I kind of combine everything just as the Twin Cities. St. Paul feels a bit more historic.
Okay.
And then Minneapolis feels a bit more innovative and like almost like corporatized.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But I mean, we always say Minneapolis, St. Paul, as if it's one, but it's really two cities. I mean, separate governments and everything. Is there anything that you wish you had known, that you wish somebody had told you before you started this job, before you became a librarian? What do you wish you had known beforehand?
I feel like one thing that I wished I knew was how many types of librarians there are out there. I feel like the public has this misconception of what a librarian is. They mostly think that we're just putting books away on the shelves or checking books out for the patrons. They don't realize just how much we're doing in the background, how we're developing their collection, seeing what type of books they might like. Also dealing with budget, seeing what we can do with the budget and what we're not able to do with the budget, and deciding on what we can buy with that and what we have to put off. Mm-hmm. Projects for the future.
Right.
I also wish that they told me the options of librarianship that are out there. So law librarianship, academic librarianship, which I did not know about until I went to college.
Right.
Also like special libraries or school libraries. Although the school library I should have known about because I had a school librarian. Yep. I just didn't know that could have been a profession because a lot of the school librarians had been teachers at the school at the time.
Right.
But I kind of wish someone had told me about that in the past.
Well, you're so early in your career, you'll have lots of chances to do these other things if you want to. And some of the special librarians, there are medical librarians and there are, industry librarians in all the different industries, like oil and gas, if you're in Texas or that part of the country. Or a friend in Philadelphia was with one of the big pharma companies, was with Merck. And so she knows everything about science research, about finding out everything, which I know nothing about, but law is pretty specialized. Yeah, it's interesting. When I was in library school, one of the courses I took was on school librarians. And so it required going to 3 different school libraries and spending the day with each librarian and writing about the differences. And so I went to the local high school, and I didn't know that lady, but a mutual friend, introduced us. And then I went to my son. He was in junior high at the time, and so I went to his library. And so that was, public school, middle school. And then the sister-in-law of my husband's business partner is a librarian in South Jersey, and that was an elementary school. And she was having an author day. An author came and spoke to them, spoke to the different classes and the groups and things. But I learned school librarians have to have not only a librarian master's, but also a teacher's certificate. And I was like, school librarians are smarter, more credentialed than anybody else in the school, because they have to have what everybody else has, plus they have to have the master's in library science, which I had not known. So I thought about that for a little while, but I was like, I don't want to get another master's, in teaching when I'm already in law, because I know something about this already. But it was kind of shocking to learn how many kinds of librarians there are.
Yes. And I will say, I didn't know this until I spoke to someone who had been a law librarian, that you don't need a law degree to become a law librarian.
You would think so. It sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes. You sometimes just need your master's, or even you're currently working on your master's and you can get the job, which is what I did.
Right.
I was currently working on my master's and I was able to get into this job.
Yeah, it's one of those few few places where you can do that. I mean, when you're in law school, they don't say, "Oh, you're in law school. Well, come and work for us and be a lawyer, and you can learn while you're doing." They don't do that. Or doctors, doctors, But librarians, law librarians, they do. It's like you're in the courses and you can do at the same time. It's pretty cool. So
yes, you can learn as you go.
Yeah, and take the courses as well. Interesting. So your group, did you say there are 2 or 3 of you that are in the prison LLSP position?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a small team. Do you guys have leadership positions within Minnesota State Law Library or Minnesota State Library System?
So between the 3 of us, we don't have one of the 3 of us be a supervisor, but we do have a supervisor, and she works under the Minnesota State Law Library. She does quarterly check-ins with us just to see that things are running smoothly, and if there's any updates, we give her those updates. Yeah.
So you guys are fairly autonomous. I mean, quarterly is not that frequent. I mean, there's other librarians there every day if you had questions, but you guys have a lot of independence, a lot of autonomy. And so that's pretty cool. I mean, not a lot of librarians only 4 years in have that kind of leeway, have that kind of autonomy to take things on. I think you said you were thinking about using AI for your statistics work, and it didn't sound like you had to jump through a bunch of hoops to be able to do that. You can just try it out.
Yeah. For AI, it's just as long as it's available on the website or resource that you're using. I had to get special permission to be able to access a website one time.
Okay.
And I think it was either Canva or Canvas, and this was to create a poster for organization.
Right.
And so I had to go through the IT court system, put in that request, and they had blocked the website because it used AI, and they weren't sure how AI was using the data that I was gathering.
Right.
So IT had to review it case by case. But now that Microsoft has implemented it, and Westlaw and Lexis and Hine has too,
right,
I feel like they've been forced to kind of like accept it into the court systems.
So you've been there 4 years. What are the most important learnings that you've gained during that time that you would share with other librarians or with patrons or with anybody that you talk to about the job?
Yeah, I feel like now that I'm almost approaching my 4-year mark,
right,
just that if you're beginning your journey into either librarianship or law librarianship, just know that there's a very steep learning curve. Just don't give up on learning. It takes a while to learn just law librarian research in itself. I think it took me about a year to finally hone it in. And it's just so many things that are out there that you kind of have to learn that are out there in order to answer the questions that you receive. So if it takes a year or a little bit longer, it's okay. Everyone has had that experience as well. I know us back here at LLSP, this is actually a new group. So the senior librarian at LLSP has been here for 1 year longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
So the turnout is very new. So we all kind of learned at the same time, and then we taught what we've learned recently. So that was pretty smooth sailing. I know when they were training the senior librarian at LSP, it was a bit hard because the youngest of the LSP librarians that had been there had only been there for 10 years, which that was a very long time ago. So a lot of their teaching manuals were a little bit out of date or non-existent, so they had to kind of like teach on the spot.
Right. So are you guys codifying those? I mean, if you're teaching sort of out of what you've learned, are you guys writing that down and creating not just the posters, but videos and Word docs and things like that to share the knowledge?
I started to, at least in a Word document. I was like, you send these items for post-conviction. If they're asking for a criminal appeal, you send these items. And just because we also deal with stats, it was also including what you put for each stat category. Right. Overall, we have had like a document of items that we were kind of like teaching the other person. So I think in the first few weeks, we were teaching people how to do citations and how to research the citations. Then it was how to do brief research, and then how to do case law research, how to use Boolean for both Westlaw and Lexis, because their Boolean is a little bit different.
Yep.
And then just looking out for that. And then later on, we kind of dove into criminal appeals and other post-sentencing options that they had. A little bit further was family law and civil law, which is a lot to learn.
It is a lot. It is a lot. It's complex.
Yes, very complex. I feel like to this day, I still have a lot to learn for family and civil law.
Right. Right. Well, these documents that you guys are writing, these documents that you're writing, I know you said there's a binder on site in each location, and they can go to that binder and learn some of this stuff. But you're probably creating your own institutional knowledge, and writing it down so that if somebody new starts, you can help them out, and give them that leg up. That's terrific.
Yeah.
That is terrific.
I'm also working on trying to get an intern at LLSP.
Oh, excellent.
Hopefully we can do it within 2 years from now. I'm not completely sure, but it's currently in the works. In the past, there have been interns, and some of the librarians at the prisons were interns for LLSP.
Right.
So now it's just kind of honing in what they can work with, just because now everything's so digital. Like the tasks that were done back in the day will be completely different nowadays.
Right.
And then just seeing if we have the budget for that, or how can we get them a computer? Can they work from the office or can they work from home? I still have to figure out all those logistics, but hopefully we can get an intern within the 2-year mark.
Right. Right. Now you're a member of AALL.
Yes.
And you're also in Minnesota Association of Law Librarians? And then are you also in the Midwestern Association of Law Librarians? Not so much.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
No.
so the Minnesota and the national one. Now, do you go to the conferences?
Yes, I do go to the mall conference.
Yep.
The Minnesota Association of Law Libraries conference. I try to do that yearly for AALL's conference. The last time I went was 2 years ago. I'm hoping to go not this summer, but the following summer.
Okay.
Here we kind of alternate who goes to the annual conference.
Yep, you take turns.
Just because, just in case we don't receive any grants or scholarships to go to those, we have a little bit of cushion to send that one person over.
Right.
Yeah, thankfully, all of us have received the grants and scholarships to be able to go when it's our turn.
Good.
But it's always fun to attend and meet other law librarians that are doing similar work to you, and then get to see what other projects they're currently working on.
Exactly. It was held in Minneapolis. I think it was like 22 years ago, maybe 21 years ago. It was in Minneapolis, AALL. Because you probably know it's this summer in Cleveland. And then next summer it's in Philadelphia. So that's where you want to go. That's when you might get to go to. Cool.
Yes. And I did attend it was a convening meeting in Philadelphia this past summer.
Oh.
But it was held by the San Francisco Public Library, but it was meant for information access to incarcerated people.
Yes.
Yeah, librarians and law librarians and other people who are interested in that area kind of came together and were talking about ways to help incarcerated people get the information that they're seeking.
Right.
Some previous incarcerated people also came to speak and how librarians at their facilities impacted their lives. And I thought that was very sweet.
Sounds wonderful. So what do you see yourself doing? Do you see yourself being there a long time, another 10, 12 years?
Yes, I do kind of see myself being here for another 10 or 20 years.
Okay.
I don't know. I like doing what I'm doing. I love giving legal information to incarcerated people. Sometimes it is rough to work here just because we're working in a basement and there's no sunlight. But I feel like that's the hardest part of my day, is not seeing the sunlight. but everything else just kind of runs smoothly.
Well, I have to tell you, it looks where you are. I mean, I guess it's the overheads. It looks really light. I thought that there were windows. And you may not know this, but there's a trend, even among the big expensive law firms, to move the libraries to the basement. I mean, this started a long time ago because, the lawyers want the windows and stuff. And so it's like, oh, let's put the admin in the basement. Let's put the finance in the basement. And one of the firms in Midtown in New York, they never called it the basement. It didn't say B on the elevator button. It said C. They always called it the concourse. It was the concourse. And they actually did a wonderful job. They had like really hot, really bright light panels behind these smoked glass panels, like all around the walls. It was so bright you would have thought you were outside, or you would have thought that must be a window past that glass. But yeah, you're among the top law firms in the country, in working in the concourse, working downstairs. Do you look at other parts of the Minnesota Law Library system that might be interesting to you after you've spent some time with your group now?
Not really.
Okay.
And it's just because to become a state law librarian or work with the public, you do need a law degree.
Right.
I don't want to go to law school
Okay.
now, especially.
Okay.
So I'm pretty comfortable in this position. And then the other positions are usually kind of like cataloging and kind of processing invoices for the state
technical
law library.
services. We would call it technical services.
Yeah, no, we also call it technical
services.
Okay.
Yes.
But I do like what I do. It gives me a chance to just keep doing research, which is what I like, and also pulling numbers, which is also something I really like.
Yeah.
It's just analyzing the data that I receive and then putting it all in an annual report. Yep. I wish I could do more with math, but sadly I was not great at calculus.
You know what? Statistics doesn't require calculus, so you'll be able to do more and more statistics because a lot of people don't want to. A lot of people do not want to work with that.
Yeah.
Well, Valerie, it sounds like you very early in life have come to something that you really love, and that is a blessing in so many ways. And I congratulate you for that, and for enjoying your work, and for what you're doing, and the extra statistics, and looking to do those, more efficiently. It sounds really, really cool. Is there anything else you want to say that I have forgotten to ask about or haven't given you a chance to say?
Oh, I feel like one other thing I would like to tell the newer law librarians is do go out to the conferences and the meetings that your association holds, just so you can talk to other law librarians and get to know what they're doing. Because in the future, you might have a question that stumps you, and you might have to go to one of them and ask them for some help. And that process will be much smoother if you know somebody in the back of your mind that you've already met in those conferences or meetings. But yeah.
So get involved. Get involved in your local associations. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. It's a great rule of thumb.
Involved. Yeah, I know a lot of librarians are introverts. I'm also very much an introvert. By getting out there and talking to other people in those meetings is great. And on top of that, the other law librarians are also there to talk. Right. They want to talk.
We do. Yeah. We like to help each other.
Yes, we do love.
We do
love to share resources with each other too.
Yep, it's true. Well, Valerie, thank you. Thank you. This has been such a pleasure to meet you and to talk about a job that I don't know anybody else doing this at all.
And thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to The Practicing Law Librarian, part of PLI's Ever Current podcast. Be sure to subscribe and listen to our latest episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. And to learn more about the Practicing Law Institute, please visit pli.edu. To learn more about PLI Plus, which provides electronic access to the full collection of PLI Press publications, and schedule a demo with a member of our team, please visit pli.edu/plus. Please note that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast represent those of the individuals being interviewed and not necessarily those of PLI.